We're on.
Awesome.
I'll record it all and then we can edit it out. Is my background okay?
Oh yeah, it's
Okay.
awesome.
Okay.
Um, if you tilt your screen just a little, like tilt your laptop, yep,
Yeah.
then
Oh, there
yep,
we go.
that's perfect. Um, I will leave you to edit, and
Yep.
you can just throw it in our Google Drive or upload it to your YouTube channel, or I can upload it to my YouTube channel. However you want to handle that is
Well,
fine.
I would want to be consistent with whatever we've been doing. So I'm happy to edit it and then I'll put it on our G drive and then you can place it in an appropriate place, I guess.
Perfect. And then I can manage kind of the sharing screen. I'm just trying to see if I can. It's complicated to me. Hopefully, someone comes for all this effort.
Right. Well, I did hear from a couple people back east, so I don't know if they registered, but they're definitely interested in what we're doing. So we'll keep trying.
That's great. And that's the biggest thing, right? We have to just keep trying
Yeah.
because it's not going to get traction right out of the gate. It's just not.
Right.
It's just going to take a lot of what I am really excited about, Jeff. And I don't know if this is kind of apparent to you. I'm just trying to close out all these applications. I'm really excited about some of the research that I've tried to synthesize for this.
Excellent.
Like, as in, I wanted to build a rationale. And so I've tried to bring different sources together to say, hey, this is a really powerful rationale. And I'm losing my train of thought because I'm like, oh, I wonder if I should go grab another book that I am
Well,
going to just quickly go grab
go right
something,
ahead.
just so that I have it at my fingertips and can cite it properly. I'll be right back.
Okay. And will I be letting people in? Hey, apparently since I'll be admitting people in, yes.
Yes.
And when would you like me to do that?
Right. I think right at 5.
Okay.
Are there people arriving?
One so far. Kate, Richer. Is
Kate.
that Kate that was with us before?
No.
Oh, somebody else.
She is an independent school principal. I think she's pretty new. I think she's in a pretty small context up north. Yeah,
Okay.
I could be wrong about those things, but
Okay.
she's really eager and a keen learner.
Awesome. We like
She
that.
takes lots of initiative.
Oh, we got somebody else now. We're up to 2.
Yay!
Yay. And the fact that we had the big group last time and then they didn't all make it, for me, that speaks to just why they need to be here. That's obviously very telling. It's like, oh, there's a fire, they've got to go urgently handle something. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I also think there's just such a we're like so inundated with information and stimuli, and we don't know how to prioritize that. Like, I was just coaching a mastermind member 30 minutes ago and about how to do that. And when you like, there's just so much coming at you, and so how do you know what's important and what are the high leverage activities as a leader? I think that's really a big piece. So let me see if I can share this screen. Oh no, it won't let me share now. Oh, I'm glad I figured that out.
So back to you.
Okay. How can I make you a co-host? Shoot. Yeah, back to me.
Okay. So should I stop recording?
Can you keep recording? Is it still
Maybe I
recording?
can. And how do let's see.
Yeah, I would just leave it on.
Yeah. Okay. But how do I give you the hosting?
I got it.
Oh, you did. Oh, you can
I
do that.
see the participants and everything. So
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do this and this and this. You can see my screen now.
I can. Yes. You have a lot of files.
Yes. Have we just already talked about this, Jeff? Oh, I love it. Love it. Okay, now I'm going to let all the participants in. Yay. Hello, Kate. Hello, Andrea. I am so happy to see you here.
As am I.
Hi there. Don't mind me, I'm eating.
No, we're happy. We're happy that you're here. Eat away.
Absolutely.
I'm eating too, so I'm just gonna turn off my screen until I'm eating and then.
Well, now I'm
Perfect.
kind of hungry.
I love it, you guys. Thank you for being here. We knew this was going to be a small and intimate group, and there may still be some arriving. I would invite you just at the outset here to open up the chat if you can, and just let us know where you're from, particularly Jeff. I know both of you, but I know he would appreciate just a little bit of context in terms of where you are in the world, a little bit about your school context, and maybe why you chose to be here. We're so grateful that you are spending your precious time with us.
Absolutely.
So as you do that, I will introduce myself. I'm Kareen Veldhoen. I've been in education for about 1,000 years. And I am really pleased to, after 15 years of school system leadership, to have moved into full-time coaching and consulting. I only just want to devote my time and energy to school leaders and helping them level up. So just championing your extraordinary potential. I'm a wife and a mom. I am founder of a Canadian charity that I've led for the past 15 years, coinciding with my school leadership. And I've taught at 2 universities. Currently I'm teaching at UNBC. So some of those Northern teacher candidates are coming. Kate, we're welcoming you from Salt Spring Island, and I am so glad you are such an eager learner as a principal, and it's really obvious to me. And Andrea, New Westminster, and yes, everything has been so difficult. So maintaining morale is a reason to be here. Thank you both of you for being here. And we are recording this, but we'll probably edit out that beginning part. I want to turn it over to my colleague Jeff for his introduction, and then we'll get started.
Thanks, Corinne. And nice to meet you both. My name is Jeff Thomlinson. I have been in the field of meditation for about 30 years, and more specifically, mindfulness-based practices for school communities for about 12 years now. And that was Take a Breath for schools and communities that emerged basically because I have 2 girls. They're a little bit older now, but just watching them grow and seeing, even though they had some good tools and support at home, the environment that they were in kind of called us to action. My wife and I are both work in this field, and it just kind of grew organically from there, working with a counselor first, a mental health counselor that came to my classes that said, hey, can you come to my school? And kind of took off like wildfire after that. The COVID period has been a little quieter in terms of me going into schools and presenting, but that's actually given me some time to work more on the content and really fine tune the practices to address kind of I'm going to say the mental health crisis that's going on in school communities. And by that, I mean the students, obviously, but also the staff and the parents that are trying to support those lovely kids. So I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us as well, Sue.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff, for even just your presence and being slows us down, slows me down. That's why I find this collaboration so powerful, is because as a school leader, I know the pace which we're all used to functioning, and we want to just challenge that a little bit. And we're here to share with you how you might do that with your entire team as possibly the best gift you could give them, and a passageway to creating the team no one wants to leave. So our intentions today are to, Jeff is going to share his B.R.A.V.E framework. And this is the framework to create nourishing team experiences. You can hang your own pieces to this framework. It's something you can take away from this meeting and feel like, okay, I understand the system to replicate and just change the content for your context. We're going to model some social emotional learning for teachers. Jeff is going to do a brilliant job of that. And that that modeling will also illustrate how to create a lived experience to build trust in your team. Then the 3 A's that are outcomes: adaptability, attention, and this strange word that's Greek, agape. So I'm going to talk about that and lean into the researchers who are sharing these ideas with me. And then we're going to share with you resources you can use right away with your team. They're ready, and they take very little planning, preparation, or thought on your part. We've done that for you. So with your permission, we'll share that at the end. So we all know the need. There's the mental health crisis. Some of us have already identified. Morale has been a struggle. We are learning. We're building the airplane in the sky. And then we want to do social emotional learning in our schools. But what I keep hearing over and over from school leaders and educators are there are very few tools that are helping the teachers learn how to do that really well in their classrooms. There's lots of classroom curriculum, but how do the teachers become powerful social emotional teachers? And then, of course, the wellness issue, teacher wellness, which I've written about and talked about a lot, but we really want to look at that from a systemic standpoint, not asking teachers to do more self-care, but really how can we create systems that care for teachers, who are our most precious resource, as far as I'm concerned. And that is really about infusing compassion into our systems. So a little bit about my story. I actually want to share with you, there's like a personal story with this work, and then there's this professional story. When I started in an independent school here in British Columbia, I inherited this strange ritual, which was, I'm going to use generic terms to describe it, a stand-up 15-minute meeting on Tuesday and Thursday mornings before school. Based on our own traditions in our school, that meeting was designed to help us connect with one another relationally and in very holistic ways, spiritually and practically for the week. Sometimes there were some practical pieces. But that 15-minute meeting became this curious way of culture building. At first, I hated it. I didn't want to go. I was like, what? Why are we doing this? This is a waste of time. And as time passed and I matured in my own leadership, I saw the value of this 15-minute stand-up meeting before school twice a week. So I tell that story to share with you that sometimes things that feel like we're not getting enough done are actually the secret sauce of culture building. Jeff, I'll let you share your story too.
Yeah, my piece of that would be we're going to talk about the B.R.A.V.E acronym here in a moment, but what I recognized in interacting with initially students, but then parents, and then ultimately the staff, is that the wellness practices that they were engaged with were becoming and still are at this point, there's a lot of kind of going through the motions. And so it became a mental construct, if you will, where it was kind of tick off a to-do box of like, okay, I did that thing. I did my, daily due diligence of wellness. And so what kept inspiring me is coming back to, okay, what are the experiential pieces that I can provide that individual, or maybe the collective, which I have done in different schools, with different staff and teachers to have, and I'm going to say an authentic experience, because that kind of harkens to Kareen's point about, oh, it's not wasted time, but it can feel that way. And that's like the edge. It's like if you're a snow skier, to ski well, you have to lean down the hill. Well, every fiber in your body is telling you to lean away from the hill. But in the same way, to get the benefit of this transformation, there has to be this S word called surrender. As surrender means many things on many levels, but that's really my expertise is personalized mindfulness in terms of finding ways to support people in that letting go.
And some of you, I'm just going to dive in because this is really Jeff's slide, but some of you know my story of meeting Jeff when he said, after my first yoga class that he taught, I'd never been to yoga before. I was in a massive life breakdown. And he said, there's always will and surrender. And I can see you have a lot of will. Implicitly and very gently inviting me to explore surrender. And we're going to talk about that piece of surrender later on when we talk about the outcomes. So I'll circle back to that. But thank you for using that word, Jeff. I appreciate it. Jeff, tell us about this framework.
So B.R.A.V.E stands for the 5 pieces of B.R.A.V.E, creating a relaxation response. Many of you know these tools. The R stands for relax, noticing the effects of tension in the body and mind. This is the beginning of the parasympathetic rest and recovery, rest and digest reaction in the body. And then we move into, I call it the bridge sometimes, of allow. Allow is working with, really the mind works in duality, work with emotions, events, and having an experience of equanimity. So you can't make yourself be balanced. You can only create the container, if you will, for an experience of balance that arrives, and it's doable. And this is the beginning of that letting go of like, oh, I don't have to process one thing or the other. I'm simply aware of both. And then it really deepens into the big brain science of visualize and empower. So visualize is that, using the back of the brain to start to create an image, an archetype, a direction, a goal that draws us to it. And the empowerment that follows is that empowerment is that that archetype, that new direction, that imprint that you're creating begins to show up in your day. So that's I love not the miracle of that, but just how the science of the brain works, that next thing you know, my new visualization, my new intention, my new direction is beginning to manifest. And I love that in the middle of my day, because I'm working on one right now, and I have, something shows up. I'm like, wow, it warms my heart to realize, okay, this process is working. So those are the 5 components that really create, I would say, authentic transformation.
Thanks, Jeff. I think maybe some of you saw my post where I was coaching a school leader, and I asked her, if you could give any gift, like a magical gift, to everyone on your team, what would it be? Every teacher on your team, what would it be? She said, a vision for a different future for our students. And she just named vision, and it was like, oh, that's brave. So Jeff is going to take us through the B and the R, and the research is really clear on this. This is about beyond relaxation and into our own personalized health and healing, which we can offer as a gift to our teachers who are working so hard. So Jeff, help us out with B and R.
You bet. And I'd preface that by saying, first, I'll say, kind of get ready in this moment. If the dog is in the room, maybe escort and ask them to step aside, and your phone is off. You're not distracted for the next few minutes, because I'm going to invite you to move inward in your awareness. But I love that you mentioned the whole acronym, because the personalized mindfulness piece of that is the empowerment as a school leader and as the collective that really can create that vision, and it's often unique, I find, to each school. Each school has a climate and a culture that's unique to itself. So I think it's really beautiful if there's some pliability to that, to creating what does this look like. Maybe it's standard in the beginning, but it's something that could even evolve over the course of a year, or you're moving towards the future. So it doesn't mean you have to go 0 to 60. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to invite you to do is to prepare yourself by you're going to sit comfortably and make sure you adjust accordingly in your seat, maybe your feet on the floor. And the eyes can close at this point. There's nothing to see. And that's actually the beginning of the relaxation response, is that release of the external. So your awareness and intention can move internally. And as you do that, what will come into your awareness is the mind is there. The mind can't stop minding. It's a verb. It's going to do that. But by and by, we begin to bring our attention to the actual sensation of the breath. The body's moving with breath right now, fast or slow, or however it is okay. And there's sensation there. There's the places where you touch the chair or the floor. And what I'm going to invite you to do is become aware of the whole front of the body here, the face, front of the neck, chest, front of the arms, torso, legs. Notice the whole front of the body is connected to the space around you. There's some freedom and connectedness to the space around you. And I'm going to also have you notice the back of the body, the places specifically where you're touching and connected to gravity and the earth. They're tactile connections. The back of the legs, bum in the chair, the feet, maybe the back. So I'm going to invite you to imagine that the whole front body could receive the next breath, as if the front of the body breathes in and the back of the body releases the breath behind you into the floor, into the earth, into gravity. So each breath in, whatever way your breath is flowing is fine. The breath moves in through the body and exhales out through the back body, the places where you touch the earth, the chair, gravity. So inhaling through that spaciousness, exhaling those specific spots. Good. And now we'll deepen the practice by moving through the body sequentially and noticing and further releasing, relaxing each area. So for example, the right arm, the shoulder, the upper arm, the hand, as if with the next 3 breaths, each exhale, that arm sinks a little bit more into gravity, into the earth, like stepping down 3 stairs very slowly. Each exhale, the right arm lets go a little bit more. And however your body's breathing, whatever rate is fine. Each exhale, it lets go more. And we'll move to the left arm, left shoulder, upper, lower arm, the left hand. The next few breaths, natural inhale, however it is, and each exhale, settling down, softening, settling. And the awareness now to the right leg, right upper knee, lower leg, the foot. These 3 breaths. Each exhale, letting go more. And awareness over to the left leg. And follow those 3 breaths, noticing the entire left leg and letting go. And then the torso and the head and neck. 3 breaths here. Each exhale, a letting go. And then finally, one final breath that acknowledges the whole body. As you inhale, feel the radiation of energy and vitality. The breath receives the whole body. And on the exhale, that surrender, that releasing, relaxing, letting go of the whole body. The whole body. The whole body. That's lovely. And then you pause for just a moment before you come back to the outside. Just reflect on the quality of this connection inside, the shift and the state of being. And then put back on the hat of the outside of the mind and the awareness. But take this relaxation and awareness of the deep release of the body with you.
Thank you, Jeff. I so appreciate how you usher us into a new transcendent space, kind of beyond thinking and feeling, to really where our true selves are. The research says we can then use the brain's powerful ability to create new maps for performance and potential. And we can do that ironically best when we have come into a relaxation response. So I would like to hear how that works as you help us understand that AVE a little bit more thoroughly. Allow, visualize, and empower.
Yeah, so there's a specific piece of the brain, the RAS, that creates those imprints of whatever it is that you're creating. And so as a colleague of mine talks about, well, if somebody creates negative experiences and they perpetuate that negative experience, lo and behold, that will be showing up for them. The empowerment, if you will, of that visualization in the world will manifest those experiences. They will confirm and affirm those experiences. But you can see as I wind it back to allow, when we move through the deeper practices of equanimity, heavy, light, hot, cold, strong, weak, and then it can even get a little deeper than that in terms of content, and irritation, overwhelm and ease, these dualities that we tend to gravitate towards one and push away the other. We can begin to have an experience of, well, both can actually be true, right? Both can be true. The mind wants to polarize, but we can actually hold the space of both. And when we do that, that's where neuroplasticity takes over. Then, because the duality of saying, oh, I'm not this or I'm that, is actually a facilitated pathway that confirms that. So if we can hold the space of allow and have an experience of that, then the visualize and empower can kick in. And that's where the personalized mindfulness can really take over, in terms of you can begin to work with the visualizations of what it is that you're transcending and what it is you're becoming. So what I'm saying by that is, sometimes in the visualization process, we can actually even look at, an experience that continues to undermine us, but let it pass by without attaching to it, without having to create duality around it, without processing it really with the mind. Simply be aware of those things that typically bind us. We can also be aware of that visualization of the new potential. And then really, coinciding with empowerment, a final visualization process can be, what would the future look like if I no longer dealt with the trappings of the past, if I embodied these new intention and ideals and practices, best practices, and it came into form, what does the future look like? That's all hard brain science right there. And that's really the flow of, allowing, visualize, and empowerment. Obviously, maybe not obviously, but after we have breathed and relaxed. So it's really important to get into the relaxation state first, to then follow with the A, V, and the E.
Awesome. Thanks. So, Jeff, I want to ask you about, specifically, let's think about our school context. I just recently wrote down this memory of a teacher who was super angry with me because we were asking her to rewrite and rethink some of her learning designs, everyone's learning designs on the whole team. This was years and years ago, before the new curriculum in British Columbia. And we were asking for them to embed some critical thinking. So she was so angry that she had to make this change, and the change brought up feelings of anger. I'm using a specific example, but it could be anyone's example. So walk that out with allow, visualize, and empower. Help me understand using that example.
Absolutely. Well, what I would say is that experience, the anger that was triggered in that moment, is actually, we would technically say there is a facilitated pathway. There's a neural pathway that is related to that anger. And if without being personal with this person, I encourage them to recall, and when is a time that you felt anger? You were frustrated, you were angry, etc. What did it look like, sound like, feel like, smell like, etc.? Because when we get to the visualize and empower, to transcend that thought form that draws energy to it, right? That typically creates resistance. They're going to try to protect that and not let it go there. Our job is to first become aware of it, help them be aware of it, and then let them fill in the neural pathway by saying, what are all the senses that were involved in that experience? Then contrast that with, if, as I hinted a moment ago, if that anger were no longer an issue, what is the perfect day when you're the opposite of angry? You're feeling empowered, and or whatever the term would be. You're feeling motivated and excited for your day. What would that day look like? Because it's usually very relative to the anger incident. What does that look like? And then again, the final visualization, what they would see is, okay, what does that future look like when that anger is no longer binding you? This new pattern is now something you're moving towards, and how do you see that coming true in the future?
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. I think that process did happen for that teacher. She eventually sat in my office and really thanked me because she was able to move through the emotion and see herself in a new future. And then when she created that future, she loved it. And so, however, I think you might have keys here, or a treasure map, if you will, to how to have that happen faster or with less angst and turmoil in our communities, really. So I'd like to just take a moment to share a few outcomes to this mindfulness, breath work, meditation practice. And one is adaptability. And I come at this work most recently from compassionate systems leadership training. Many of you have heard of that work. It is out of MIT. It is Dr. Peter Senge, who is a management and change management expert. He comes from the management field. And then Dr. Meta Bowl, who comes to us from the biology field and looking at the interconnectedness of biological systems. And they want to think systemically about how do we support schools to adapt. Adapting being like changing or being changed, and successfully navigating those new realities. And all of us in the pandemic have had to adapt so many times to so many new realities. And the more adaptable we are, the more resilient we are, right? And so these practices actually facilitate adaptability. And so I think that's a really powerful, because that's what we want for our teams, is for them to be able to adapt, because we do live in that VUCA world. It's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I was going to forget the C there, but I got it. Outcome number 2 for these practices is really around attention. And I'm going to hold up this book. Amishi Jha, she is the neuroscientist behind some of what Jeff is talking about. She has this big, thick book called Peak Mind. And her work is really on the attentional system and how we can improve it. We can literally level up our brain. And her research has told us exactly how. The MRIs and all the scans of our brains, it's about investing 12 minutes a day or more in meditation. But 12 minutes is where we start to see our attention system improving, even under stress, threat, or negative moods. So when we have such a stressful work environment, as schools are, we can see improvements in our attention, which is really kind of the foundation for thinking, feeling, connecting with others, and performance. And then the third, again, it comes from the compassionate systems leadership piece. And they talk about how these practices really cultivate this sense of the divine interconnectedness of all things. And they used a Greek word, agape, to help describe this sense of we are all interconnected. There is none of us who isn't impacting the rest. We are all in a system of ever unfolding interconnectedness. So they use the word agape as this highest sense of way to show up in the space of our schools. So these three outcomes are outcomes of what Jeff and I have invited here for within that B.R.A.V.E framework. And they're very well researched. And I'm happy to provide more sources than we have time for in this short hour. Jeff, I'd like you to just feel free to comment on those outcomes. I'm sure there's others, but I just chose those three.
Well, I want to focus mainly on agape because um, the powerful learning that comes when, I know it was once said, somebody famous said, when two or more are gathered in my name. Another way to say that, when we gather with intention, heartfelt intention and surrender, and kind of drop down beyond the typical, positioning, polarization mind, how we create the ego, the self, creates separation at a certain level as a form of protection. It's important. But when the intention is there and the dropping down happens, and I'm going to use agape as the example of that the shared experience there it's unfortunately not at this point, it's not a quantifiable or measurable thing, but it can be a felt experience where there is a collective experience of a settling, I would say, and I would also say I want to say permission or inclusion or acceptance, even belonging. So it moves out and it moves in as an experience, and the tricky part is to get to that point. What are the practices for school teams or sports teams that I might work with, or different people that I'm exploring right now? They have to be willing to get to the first part. They have to be willing to breathe and relax and close their eyes, or what are the pieces that really set up the containers, the analogy I use of an experience where they can settle. Or sometimes I talk about a butterfly flapping its wings and then it lights, it sits on the flower and it feels safe enough that it can close its wings and not be prepared to run or fly. So, that's important right now. A lot of people keep their wings flapping, they just have a hard time putting their personal self and separation aside enough to settle in and receive the gift of this outcome number 3, because this outcome number 3 pays it forward into the next experience. It's a learned, that's also how the brain works. And I'm sure that the Peak Mind book would talk about that in terms of, it reinforces, like the 12 minutes a day, or when you build that resiliency, if you will, it will reinforce it to recognize, oh, I know this place. And so it's much easier to settle back into it the next time. There's a confidence. But the initial pieces are really important to help someone arrive at that.
Jeff, you rescued me. I'm so glad you brought us back to the word surrender, because I was going to mention it and neglected to. But these 3 outcomes are all based on the adaptability, the increased and improved attention, and the sense of interconnectedness, which is what we want. It's like literally the definition of high-performing teams, safe and interconnected people. It's all an experience of surrender. It's all, Brené Brown would call that the vulnerability, the place of where we actually get real and authentic with one another. So thank you.
I could add something to that. Having been around some, totally different field, but some professional musicians, okay, maybe in some rock and roll, etc., but that's okay. That they talk about a similar experience of the agape, of the connectedness, when they arrive at that place, that there is a transcendence that occurs. That sometimes is talked about as the third. There's a not an entity, but there's a palpable quality to that connection that brings them all further than they could go as their individual selves. And musicians at a certain level that I'm talking about, without naming the band, they all would talk about that and how powerful that is. And I think that's, we want that for our teams. We want that for our groups. We want that for our communities. I want that for my family. Right? Yeah.
Beautiful. So with your permission, I'd just like to share with you a way in which Jeff and I think you could implement this, because it's all fine and good to know the framework, to know that these practices are based in neuroscience, but how do we actually infuse them into our school communities? And that's part of some of the questions around how do we create compassionate communities? How do we embed and really look at that from a systemic standpoint? So Jeff and I have put together passageways. They're powerful team building experiences, and they're ready for you to go. We have 8 sessions. They are variable between 5 and 45 minutes. So you can introduce these ideas into your school community very practically and experientially, as Jeff has so aptly described for us. It's 3 easy steps of creating this experience of wellness and expansion. And I like that word expansion because it's kind of a synonym for what we were talking about, the visualize and empower. It's that teacher who has held the anger and understood that she doesn't need to go all the way into that or over identify maybe, and she can move into wellness and expansion. It's about us being together and building trust, and it has those three steps: the breathe and relax, which there's 8 sessions of Jeff leading breathe and relax. And obviously he can do it better than I can, or maybe anyone else on this call, because he's a master. And I like bringing masters into my circle and my school team. Apologies. And then practical team teaching video. This is just like re-engaging that hot topic cognitively in your team. So for example, I did a video on from busyness to focus. That's what everyone's trying to get to this fall, right? From busyness to focus. And then number 3 is again the A.V.E, empowering, which is an audio visualization to unlock fresh inspiration, and it's directly connected to that hot topic. So from busyness to focus was the team teaching video. And then the audio visualization is really around, that Jeff hosts again, is really around that same topic, but helping us transcend the mind to that new place of a vision and expansion and empowerment. That all happens in about 20 minutes. So Passageways is available for I skipped fast, for $3.99 this fall. We extended that pricing and the bonuses, particularly for this webinar. Passageways includes additional year-end team experience. So we added a 9th session, which is from exhaustion to celebration. That we thought was the perfect way to end in June, from exhaustion to celebration. We added a breathwork recording, balancing overwhelm and contentment. We are offering 2 live leadership coaching events, the 2 of us, a curated resource list, which I mentioned. We have some resources at our fingertips. A curation of 9 contemplative poems. And I said earlier that there are many ways to kind of get to the B and R. And even the A, the allow, and some of the paradoxes that we have to hold in poetry has been one of the passageways that I've used, even with my teams. So I offer that to you as well. Nine sessions worth, aligned with the 9 sessions that we offered. Again, a set of journal prompts, again, aligned with those themes. So a prompt for each session. And then design an inspiring summer mini course for you. So those are the bonuses that we'll give you for that $3.99. And we're really, really excited about this opportunity and just trying it in schools. We'd love to hear your feedback and see what happens in your team. We really do believe this is a powerful strategy. Any questions before we close off the hour?
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this. And thank you for allowing me to join so late. I'm so sorry. My question was, is it like a book you all offer, or is it a digital platform?
That is such a good question, because I sometimes worry that people are going to be like, what did I get here? It's a digital platform that is hyperlinked to all of the recordings. So 9 sessions worth of recordings. There's the 3 steps for each, along with all of those bonuses. And it's all in the Google system. And so you can just download that and keep it forever. You can use it whenever you want. If you don't get to all 9 sessions this year, you can use it next year or repeat it, or however you'd like to use it in your context. It's yours to keep. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that did answer my question. Thank you. And then, so it being a digital platform, say, for example, I have 3 directors at my campus. Can they all have access to it, or will we get like all one, password and email for access?
That is such a good question also. It's not password protected. So we are just handing it out for those who purchase it, and trusting that you will use it in your school site, and everyone can have access to it in your school site.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, we want to make it easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put the link into the landing page where you can look at it in more detail. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions as well. Any other thoughts or insights from the hour?
Will you kindly share the other half of this recording with me? Is that possible? Okay,
Yes.
awesome. You're amazing.
Everyone who registered is not everyone who's here today. So we will, if there was anyone who was registered, we will share the recording, the slide deck, and obviously this landing page. Andrea, we're so glad you were here. Kate, we're so glad you were here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for joining us.
And we welcome your feedback. If this didn't hit the spot for you, or you have more questions, or you're like, how does this even relate to creating a team no one wants to leave? Please let us know. We're happy to keep refining this as we go.
Absolutely we are. I want to echo that. Just we both are, sometimes our feelings come up in terms of we want to serve. I want to serve. I know Corrine feels the same way, and just that the call to serve, but we want to find the best ways to do that. We know what we have here. We know how powerful this is. We know how transformational it is on many levels. And so we're just trying to work out the pieces to make it accessible, for you. So to your point, Misha, share it on the campus. It's kind of the honor system. We just want to do the good work. And yes, we have to charge something. That's important for us too. But yeah, we would just love to keep going and keep evolving. So please help us with that if you can.
Of course. And now, when we purchase, we'll get access right away, or okay,
Yes, that it gets sent to you right away, and it's
great.
on like a little Google sheet, and all of the links are there. You can just download all of the content for yourself and share it within your campus.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Awesome. Well, we're so grateful that you spent this hour with us, and we wish you a wonderful evening. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you for joining us.
Always good when you end a little early.